Rev up your engines. Finally, I got my hands on an electric car. It's a 2021 Chevy Bolt. Now, of course, they didn't give me one to try out because they're all afraid of me. But the guy who owns it drove all the way from Maryland to Tennessee to show me it. He's a fan of mine. He says, you can say whatever you want about it. Now, they wanted all kinds of money for it, but his mother, I guess, works at GM, so he got all the discounts. He paid 30 grand for this car, and he now has 29,000 something, almost 30,000 miles on it. And he told me his experience with it. I'm gonna put my fancy scan tool on it too, see what's going on. All right, for two reasons. He likes this car because he's in the Washington, D.C. area. He has a 16-mile drive to work, so it's 32 miles commuting. And since it's small and it has 360-degree viewing around it, the cinch to park in insanity of Washington, D.C. I've been there and I know. Now, the EPA rates this thing at 259 miles. Of course, that's EPA rating, so we might as well be living in Walt Disneyland there. He came here, he would make sure that he'd recharge the thing at least every 150 miles. The speed limit goes 70, 75 miles an hour. Run the AC, that's his maximum, it's about 150 miles. The one advantage of this car is it's a small car. Recharging it at a fast charger is something that can happen relatively quickly. If he goes to 150 miles, he said it'll take 30 to 45 minutes at a fast charger to charge the thing. Now, he's a tech guy. If you're not a tech guy, you're not going to like one of these because check out his phone. Now, you only charge it to 80%. They got a deal that it does that because GM sent him a note and said you only want to charge it up to 80%. And as he said, if you did want to bypass the software and charge it to 100%, they charge up to 80 quickly. But then the last 20, they have to put less and less, otherwise the battery would blow up. So it takes so much time to do 100%. You can realistically charge them to 80% when you're doing the trip. Got to be tech heavy because he has various apps, Circle K, 7-Eleven, all kinds, Shell, ChargePoint, Electrify America. Everyone has their own app, and you better learn the rules, how it works. For example, if you use Electrify America and use your credit card, Electrify America will put a $50 charge. You'll get it back. The owner of the car says it normally takes a couple of days to get your $50 deposit back. It's kind of if you're using the app. Now, it's kind of scumbaggy because you think about it, gas station credit cards will do that, but they only charge $1 that they give you back. You got to learn how to operate these things, which ones you're going to use, and realize one thing. There is no law on what you're paying. This isn't like you're driving down a road and you see a sign, gas is $3.30 a gallon. You know? You get there and you find out what it costs once you get there and you're hooked up. And of course, since he's only going to push at 150 miles, you got to stop a lot. And each time he stops, it's going to be 30 to 45 minutes charging the thing up. Now, he got lucky because coming here, the ones he got worked. I've had people come here. One guy plugged in Knoxville. He plugged in his car and he said, it's charging great. Then a guy showed up with one of these Chevys and plugged his in, and immediately the charge went down to just like 10 amps. And then it stopped working entirely. Luckily, he had enough juice to make it here because in Clarksville, Tennessee, there's quite a few charging stations. So 200-something thousand people, there's going to be a reasonable amount of charging. But you're going to have to plan this stuff ahead. It's just a little chart. He had to stop numerous times. The various places he stopped: Woodstock, Virginia, 106 miles. Fincastle, Virginia, 128 miles. Then he went 76, because they're not always evenly spaced. Then he went 73 and a half. Then he went 125. And then his executive park, I guess he was staying in a hotel, that was only 1.8 miles away because he could charge it at night. Then in Cooksville, 91.3 miles. Then in Clarksville, 116 miles. Then he was at the Cracker Barrel, where he was sitting there for a while. It was only 7 miles away. Now, he did find that they worked where he was, but some of them were derated, meaning they don't give you the power they're rated at. And here in Tennessee, that's a big thing, because in Tennessee, they don't charge you by the actual power. They charge you by the minute it's charging. If it's charging at a lower rate, it's going to take longer, and you're paying by the minute, you're going to pay more money. Like I say, you're at the whim of whoever's selling you the electricity. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I gotta say, it's a nice looking small car. Check out the wheels. It's regular car wheels. They're not some funky thing that looks like a spaceship or a UFO or a flying saucer. It looks like a regular car. It does have 4 doors. It's not tiny. There's a reasonable amount of room here with the seat back. It's got a little trunk, but of course, you can put these seats down, make it more like a hatch. And if you look closely, there's a false floor under here, and there's all kinds of space where he's got a little bit of stuff. He said it's all full, but he doesn't know what full means. I'm gonna get out my giant electric scan tool and see what's happening with this. Out comes the Autel that does EV. They were nice enough to put an OBD plug so I can plug it in. They don't have to by law because it's an electric car, but they did. Now Tesla doesn't, but GM did. Now check out the screen, man. And the sound, it's cool. She's gonna be talking to you, all these electric cars do that. So we'll ignore that in the background, right? So here we go. It's a Chevy with a standalone diagnosis. These electric cars are fast. I'd already read it. It knows it's a 2021 passenger car Bolt. Complete topology scan. Here we go. And while it's scanning, we'll look around. There's no sunroof. It's, you know, it's an economy type car. Got nice vinyl seats that'll probably hold up. So here we go. You can see everything is green except one thing. There is one code. We'll see what crazy nonsense. The video processing control module. Let's see what that's doing. Side view camera left performance signal invalid. So at some point in time, the side view camera left had an invalid signal. Let's go to live data. It'll be different than the gasoline cars we're used to looking at. A lot of stuff we can look at. Look, make your head spin. But what we're more interested in is the electric power management. Now this shows the battery voltage of the small battery. Understand that all electric cars, at least the ones I've ever seen, work the same. They have a regular 12-volt car battery. When you push the button, powers up the computers, they decide, is everything okay? Then through using different modules and using different power inverters, they allow the main giant electric battery to operate the car. If that battery goes bad, you can't drive it. It won't start. So every once in a while, it behooves you to have a test done on the regular battery. It's tested with the same old battery tester we use in regular cars. You want to keep it up, because if that goes bad and you're stranded somewhere, you're going to kick yourself for not maintaining it. That battery will go bad. Now, ultimately, it is charged by the gigantic battery using a power inverter. But if it does go bad, goodbye, you won't be able to start the car. Now, this thing has 96 cell voltages. You can look at the PID for each one if you want. This is so new, I'm sure it doesn't have any problems. You can see presently the state of charge is 81%. He drove this thing here, went 150 miles. Right? It's hot out now. If it had been in the winter and he was running a heater, he'd be stopping a lot sooner. So what he does in Maryland, and let's face it, it's not always all that cold in Maryland. He uses the heated seats and the steering wheel heater, and he just uses the regular heat to defrost the window. Otherwise, he's going to lose range like no tomorrow, because of course, with the resistive heater using at 7 kilowatt hours and it's cold outside, batteries don't like being cold, right? And so if it gets cold, they use electricity even worse. Plus, you got to understand another thing. This is a lithium-ion battery car. Not only does it have to cool itself when it's hot outside, it's got to heat itself when it's cold outside, or it will freeze. It is liquid. That's why everybody's making this big wacko about solid state batteries for cars. Solid state don't have any liquids in them, so the cold weather won't freeze them and break them. In this case, if it's cold outside, this baby's got to heat itself up. It's got to use some of its own energy to keep itself from freezing. So, in the winter, maybe not such a wise choice. Now, GM's solution that they give people is, in the summer, you get home, plug your car in. Leave it plugged in on your house one, right? And then pray your house doesn't burn down. But that'll keep it charged when it's hot because it's cooling itself down. And the same thing in the winter. Plug it in the winter so your house will be heating the battery so it doesn't use its own energy to keep it hot so it doesn't go out. And in this case, you better be plugging it in real hot or real cold because otherwise you're going to lose your range. When these things get below 40% charge, they will no longer charge the 12-volt battery when they're just sitting, and they won't run the heat. So of course, if it's really cold, the battery could freeze and self-destruct. He met a guy who lived where it was 40 below. When he got in the car, it said, plug car in. Battery's frozen. You're going to wait until you can drive the thing. Pretty cold, but I mean, even when it gets 10 below or whatever, it's going to really affect the performance of these things. They are not made for super high temperatures or super cold temperatures. So truthfully, if you do want one of these, it really behooves you to have a heated and or air-conditioned garage. When it's cold, it takes a lot longer to charge the battery, because when you plug into one of these battery chargers and your battery's cold, the first thing it does is it has to warm the battery up, and it can't charge a cold battery. You know, they don't tell you all this stuff when you buy them. They tell you it's the future and it's going to save humanity. You know, maybe it'll save humanity because everyone will stay at home. Now you can tell, even though it's running, it doesn't make any noise. Well, grab this, forward to the left. Okay, now it's reverse. And as you said, look, you got a nice backup camera, but you also have 360. So when you're parking this thing in downtown Washington, D.C., you can see what the heck you're doing. It's a small car to begin with, but you can get in tiny little spaces. If you listen, you can hear the angelic sound that it makes.
Oh, do you want the AC on?
And now we're going to turn the AC on because it's hot. And away we go. Now what you're going to notice about an electric car is, since there's no motor, no transmission, you got to get used to different kinds of noises. You can actually hear the wheels going down the road. You can hear the motor humming. I mean, you're going to hear different noises. They're quiet noises, but you're always going to hear some kind of noise. Now you hear the noise it makes, because if you're going too slow, it has to make noise by law. But once you get going, it shuts that system off. We're going to take it to our drag strip, see what happens. And of course it has regenerative braking to try to regenerate some of the power. Sad but true, it's limited to 93 miles an hour. And you know it could go a lot faster than 93 miles an hour. But if you've ever followed me talking about electric cars and batteries, the faster you go, the faster they drain out power. And it would really have a short range if you were doing 100-something in this thing. We come to our little drag strip. We'll wait till this guy gets out of the way, so he won't rear end us when we stop. We'll wait for the next guy too. Well, he's worried about the wheel spinning, but I'm not. Here we go. Once it gets going, it starts moving. It doesn't throw you back in the seat of your pants, but definitely, let's say you're going 50 miles an hour. We'll get it going 50, now we'll floor it. See, it goes up relatively quickly for a tiny little car. The main problem with these electric cars like this is you'll even hear the wind rushing by because the car's quiet. So you'll hear new noises, like I said. This baby handle's nice. You can really fiddle around on one of these things. Look at it. It's got nice handling characteristics. And it rides pretty good for a small car. These cars are so quiet, the turn signal's loud as heck, because it's the only thing you can hear. And if you're into high technology, well, there's the power draw. 17, if we step on it, watch, it'll go way up. There it goes. Man, we use a lot of power now, baby. It was fun to drive. He loves it in the Washington, D.C. area. Easy to park. He's got a level 2 charger at home. He does say it is a hassle driving it on the highway. You gotta plan ahead, but for him, it wasn't that bad. He got from Maryland to here in a couple of days, and he went to Texas one time, and that took him 3 days. Now, he had to kind of go out of his way in certain things, but still, if a normal person's driving from Maryland to Texas, well, at least when you're old like me, you're gonna split it into 3 days because you're sick of driving, right? You could make it faster if you wanted to, but 3 days, Maryland to Texas, not that bad. They said they were going to stop making them, but they're losing so much money that they're cutting costs. So, okay, we're going to still make it. Of course it makes sense. Their biggest selling electric car. Why would you stop selling it? That's the problem with Americans. Well, that's why the Japanese eat our lunch when it comes to making good cars. Gradually, they make the Corollas better, the Camrys better, the Civics better. Americans, they make something. We don't like it, throw it in the toilet. Let's make something else, right? He likes the car. It's not let him down or anything yet. And yeah, traveling across the country, it's kind of a feat. You need all those stupid apps, and you hope that the vandals haven't cut the wires and stole the copper, which happens all the time. His normal everyday commuting in Washington, D.C., it's fine. And that's really what these cars should start out with. Commuting cars. That makes the most sense. And for him, that's mainly what he does. And it serves his purposes. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.